For hundreds of years, the United Galactic Alliance shared stories about a scary species from a far part of the galaxy. They called them humans, two-legged beings who could adapt to anything and who always wanted to explore and conquer. Most aliens thought these were just made-up stories to scare children. The Xaladorians, who kept records of everything in the galaxy, had some old documents suggesting humans once lived but probably killed themselves off because they were too aggressive. Admiral Krenfos of the Centaurian Defense Force found these stories funny. As the youngest admiral ever in Centaurian history, he had more important things to worry about than old myths. He needed to keep peace in Sector 7, where the crystal-like Vicari and the gas cloud Nimbulons were arguing about borders, which could harm trade routes. On a normal day aboard the command ship Stellar Guardian, Admiral Krenfos was reviewing reports when his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Gil, rushed onto the bridge. "Admiral, our long-range sensors have picked up something strange," Gil said, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "What kind of strange?" asked Krenfos, setting down his datapad. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. A group of ships approaching from the empty zone." Krenfos stood up. The empty zone was a part of space that everyone avoided because of dangerous radiation and unstable wormholes. No known species had settlements there. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen lit up with a view of distant space. At first, Krenfos saw nothing but stars. Then Gil zoomed in, and there they were, 7 ships moving in perfect formation. Their design was unlike any he had seen before, sleek, with sharp angles and glowing blue engines. "Have they responded to our standard greeting signal?" Krenfos asked. Communications Officer Drila, a thin, green-skinned Meraxian, shook her head. "No, Admiral, but they are broadcasting something. It's not in any Alliance language. Put it through the translation matrix." The bridge speakers crackled with strange sounds, harsh, with odd rhythms and tones that made some of the crew cover their hearing organs. The translation matrix worked for several minutes, lights flashing as it tried to decode the unknown language. Finally, words appeared on the screen. "This is Captain John Miller of the Earth vessel Horizon Dawn. We come in peace and seek friendly contact with any sentient species." The bridge went completely silent. Drila's skin turned pale green. "Earth?" she whispered. That's the human homeworld from the old stories." Krenfos felt his heart racing. Everyone in the Alliance knew the myths. Humans were supposedly the most dangerous warriors the galaxy had ever seen. Stories said they could survive in almost any environment, could keep fighting even when badly hurt, and never gave up. But they were just stories, weren't they? "Should I alert Alliance Command?" asked Gil, his voice shaking slightly. Krenfos thought for a moment. If these really were humans, this would change everything. "Yes," he said, "and send a reply. Tell them we welcome peaceful contact and invite them to Harmony Station." As Drila sent the message, Krenfos went to his private terminal and pulled up the oldest files in the Alliance database. The fragmentary records of a species that had supposedly fought alongside the Alliance against a terrible enemy long ago, before disappearing. The warning at the top of the file gave him pause. "Approach with extreme caution. Unpredictable, dangerous, but potentially the greatest allies any species could hope for." The reply from the human ship came quickly. "Thank you for your welcome. We are eager to meet you. Sending coordinates for rendezvous." Humans were no longer myths. They had returned to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same again. For hundreds of years, the United Galactic Alliance shared stories about a scary species from a far part of the galaxy. They called them humans, two-legged beings who could adapt to anything, and who always wanted to explore and conquer. Most aliens thought these were just made-up stories to scare children. The Xaladorians, who kept records of everything in the galaxy, had some old documents suggesting humans once lived, but probably killed themselves off because they were too aggressive. Admiral Krenfoss of the Centaurian Defense Force found these stories funny. As the youngest admiral ever in Centaurian history, he had more important things to worry about than old myths. He needed to keep peace in Sector 7, where the crystal-like Vicari and the gas cloud Nimbulons were arguing about borders, which could harm trade routes. On a normal day aboard the command ship Stellar Guardian, Admiral Krenfoss was reviewing reports when his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Gilles, rushed onto the bridge. "Admiral, our long-range sensors have picked up something strange," Gilles said, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "What kind of strange?" asked Krenfoss, setting down his datapad. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. A group of ships approaching from the empty zone." Krenfoss stood up. The empty zone was a part of space that everyone avoided because of dangerous radiation and unstable wormholes. No known species had settlements there. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen lit up with a view of distant space. At first, Krenfoss saw nothing but stars. Then Gilles zoomed in, and there they were, 7 ships moving in perfect formation. Their design was unlike any he had seen before, sleek, with sharp angles and glowing blue engines. "Have they responded to our standard greeting signal?" Krenfoss asked. Communications Officer Drila, a thin, green-skinned Maraxian, shook her head. "No, Admiral, but they are broadcasting something. It's not in any Alliance language. Put it through the translation matrix." The bridge speakers crackled with strange sounds, harsh, with odd rhythms and tones that made some of the crew cover their hearing organs. The translation matrix worked for several minutes, lights flashing as it tried to decode the unknown language. Finally, words appeared on the screen. "This is Captain John Miller of the Earth vessel Horizon Dawn. We come in peace and seek friendly contact with any sentient species." The bridge went completely silent. Drila's skin turned pale green. "Earth," she whispered. That's the human homeworld from the old stories." Krenfoss felt his heart racing. Everyone in the Alliance knew the myths. Humans were supposedly the most dangerous warriors the galaxy had ever seen. Stories said they could survive in almost any environment, could keep fighting even when badly hurt, and never gave up. But they were just stories, weren't they? "Should I alert Alliance Command?" asked Gilles, his voice shaking slightly. Krenfoss thought for a moment. If these really were humans, this would change everything. "Yes," he said, "and send a reply. Tell them we welcome peaceful contact and invite them to Harmony Station." As Drila sent the message, Krenfoss went to his private terminal and pulled up the oldest files in the Alliance database, the fragmentary records of a species that had supposedly fought alongside the Alliance against a terrible enemy long ago, before disappearing. The warning at the top of the file gave him pause. "Approach with extreme caution. Unpredictable, dangerous, but potentially the greatest allies any species could hope for." The reply from the human ship came quickly. "Thank you for your welcome. We are eager to meet you. Sending coordinates for rendezvous." Humans were no longer myths. They had returned to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Back on Earth, President Olivia Carter stood before the United Nations in New York. The large room was completely silent as she delivered news that would change human history forever. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "According to the Alliance representatives, ancient records show that humans once lived among the stars over 50,000 years ago." Shocked whispers filled the room. How could this be possible when human history only went back a few thousand years? "I know this is hard to believe," the president continued, "but the Alliance has shared artifacts and DNA samples that support their claim. Our scientists are studying them now." In a secure lab beneath Geneva, Switzerland, archaeologist Dr. Alan Russell carefully examined a metal object that looked like a tool or weapon. The Alliance said ancient humans had made it. Next to him, geneticist Dr. Lisa Patel studied DNA samples from the artifacts. "This tool shows advanced metalwork, similar to how we make things today," said Alan, looking through a powerful microscope. "The design feels somehow familiar." Lisa looked up from her computer screen. "The DNA tests show these samples match human DNA with 99.7% accuracy. They're definitely human." "But how?" Alan asked. "Did humans evolve on Earth, go to space, then lose everything and start over? Or did we come from somewhere else originally?" Meanwhile, on Harmony Station, Captain Miller and Susan Wright learned more about why aliens feared humans. They sat in a room with Admiral Krenfoss and other alien leaders, watching old recordings that the Alliance had kept secret for thousands of years. The recordings showed humans fighting alongside alien allies against a terrible enemy called the Devourers, monsters that ate entire planets. "According to our oldest records," explained Krenfoss, "humans led the final battle against the Devourers. They saved the galaxy, but at great cost." The final recording showed human ships flying directly into the largest enemy vessel in what looked like a suicide attack. There was a bright flash, and then the recording ended. "After that battle, we lost contact with all human worlds," said Krenfoss. "The location of Earth was lost over time. Some believed all humans had died to save the rest of us. That's why some species were afraid when you returned," added a plant-like alien named Vex. "Not just because of your fighting skills, but because your return might mean the Devourers are coming back too." Susan leaned forward. "Are you saying these Devourers might still exist?" The aliens looked at each other nervously before Krenfoss answered. "We don't know. They haven't been seen since that last battle. But there is a saying among the oldest Alliance species: when humans return to the stars, the great hunger will awaken." Captain Miller felt a chill run down his spine. "So you don't just fear us. You've been waiting for us." "Yes," admitted Krenfoss. "The oldest prophecies say that humans would return when they were needed most." Back on Earth, President Carter met with her top military advisors. The Alliance had shared star maps and faster-than-light travel technology, allowing humans to build better ships much more quickly. "The Alliance believes some ancient enemy might return," she told the group. "They think humanity has some special role to play if that happens." General Frank Daniels shook his head. "Madam President, this sounds like they're preparing us for a war." "Maybe they are," she replied. "But if these records are true, we've fought this enemy before. And somehow, we were the key to defeating them." In the Geneva lab, Dr. Russell made an exciting discovery inside the ancient artifact. It contained a hidden compartment with a small data device. "Lisa, come look at this," he called to his colleague. "I think this might be a message from our ancestors." As they carefully connected the device to their computer, strange symbols appeared on the screen. Slowly, the computer began to translate them. The first words made both scientists gasp. "To our descendants, if you are reading this, the enemy has returned. We left you the tools to fight them. You are the last hope for all life in the galaxy." 6 months after humans made first contact with the Alliance, much had changed. Earth ships regularly visited Alliance space, and alien ambassadors had come to Earth. Humans and aliens were slowly getting used to each other, though many aliens still seemed nervous around humans. Captain John Miller had been put in charge of a mixed fleet of human and alien ships that patrolled the border between Alliance space and an empty region of space called the Void Expanse. No one lived there because of dangerous radiation and strange gravity patterns. One quiet day, as Miller was reviewing reports on the bridge of his ship, now renamed Unity as a symbol of human-alien cooperation, alarms suddenly began to sound. "Captain," called out Communications Officer Eric Barnes, "we're getting emergency signals from the deep space monitoring stations in the void." Miller rushed to his command chair. "Put it on screen." The main screen showed a grainy video of an alien with purple skin and 4 eyes. The alien looked terrified. "This is Monitoring Station Delta 7, the alien said, its voice shaking. Something is coming out of the void. Massive objects, at least 20, no, 30 of them. They're not responding to hails in there. The transmission cut off suddenly. "Get that station back," Miller ordered. "I can't, sir," said Barnes. "It's gone. Completely gone." At that moment, Science Officer Diane Foster called out from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up strange readings from the void. Energy signatures unlike anything I've seen before." Miller contacted Alliance Command and Earth Fleet Headquarters at the same time. Within minutes, he was speaking with both Admiral Krenfoss and Earth Admiral Pete Johnson. "We lost contact with Station Delta 7, Miller reported, "and we're picking up strange energy readings from the void." Admiral Krenfoss's skin turned a pale blue, a sign of fear, Miller had learned. "Send me those energy readings immediately," he ordered. After looking at the data, Krenfoss's 4 hearts nearly stopped. "It matches," he whispered. "It matches the historical records of Devourer ships." "The ancient enemy?" asked Admiral Johnson. "You're sure?" "I pray I am wrong," said Krenfoss. "But we must prepare for the worst. Captain Miller, bring your fleet back to Harmony Station immediately. We're calling all available ships to defend against this threat." Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Patel and Dr. Alan Russell worked day and night to decode more of the ancient human message. "Look at this," said Lisa, pointing to her screen. "According to this data, the Devourers aren't just aliens. They're something else." Alan leaned closer. "What do you mean?" "They're some kind of artificial life form," Lisa explained, "created by an even older species that died out long ago. They were designed to collect and preserve life forms across the galaxy, but something went wrong with their programming. Instead of preserving life, they began to consume it. And how did ancient humans fight them?" Ellen asked. Lisa scrolled through more of the decoded message. "It says humans had something special in their brains, a unique pattern that disrupted the Devourers' hive mind communication. That's why humans led the fight against them. We were the only ones who could get close without being taken over." At Harmony Station, the largest fleet ever gathered in Alliance history prepared for battle. Ships from 30 different species formed a defensive line facing the void. Captain Miller stood on the Bridge of Unity, now the command ship for the human fleet. Lieutenant Commander Susan Wright stood beside him. "The first Devourer ships will reach our position in 3 hours," she reported. Miller nodded grimly. "Send a message to all ships. We stand together. We fight together. And together, we will win." As he spoke, the long-range sensors detected the first massive shape emerging from the darkness of the void, an enormous black ship that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. "It's exactly as described in the ancient texts," whispered a nearby alien officer. "Yes," replied Miller, his face determined. "And just like our ancestors, we'll find a way to defeat them." As the combined human and Alliance fleets prepared for battle against the Devourers, something amazing happened on Earth. Deep under the ice of Antarctica, a team of scientists and engineers had been digging after finding strange energy readings. What they discovered shocked the world. Dr. Alan Russell stood in a massive underground cave, staring at a perfectly preserved starship. It was clearly made by humans, but used technology far beyond what modern humans could build. "How old is it?" asked General Frank Daniels, who had flown in from Washington, as soon as the discovery was reported. "Carbon dating puts it at about 52,000 years old," Dr. Russell replied. "And there are records inside, records that tell us everything." The information they found in the ancient ship revealed the truth. Humans had indeed traveled among the stars 50,000 years ago. After the devastating war with the Devourers, the few human survivors returned to Earth only to find that a large meteor had hit the planet, causing massive climate change. Most of human civilization had been destroyed. The space travelers mixed with the humans who had survived on Earth. They hid their advanced technology, but kept some of their knowledge alive through stories and myths, hoping that one day humans would return to space. Meanwhile, in space, The first battle against the Devourers was going badly. The Alliance shields did not work against the Devourers' energy-draining weapons, and human missiles seemed to do little damage to the massive ships. In a desperate video call between Captain Miller, Alliance Command, and Earth leaders, Dr. Lisa Patel shared what she had learned from the ancient ship. The ancient vessel contains plans for weapons designed specifically to fight the Devourers, she explained. And we now understand why humans were effective against them before. There's something in our brain patterns that disrupts their hive mind communication. You're saying we're naturally resistant to them? Asked Miller. More than that, Lisa replied. The ancient records show we're the only species that can directly connect with their technology without being taken over. The ancient humans built a special neural interface that could hijack Devourer ships. President Carter's face looked serious on the video screen. How quickly can we adapt this technology for our current fleet? We're already building the devices, said Dr. Russell. The ancient ship had working models we could copy. We can have the first batch ready in 3 days. We may not have 3 days, said Admiral Krenfoss. The Devourers have already destroyed 2 Alliance worlds. They're moving faster than we expected. On the front lines, Captain Miller's ship Unity barely escaped from a surprise attack by 3 smaller Devourer vessels. Half of his fleet had been lost in the first major clash. As Miller helped a wounded crew member to the medical bay, he thought about what Dr. Patel had said about human brain patterns. Susan, he called to his second-in-command. Contact Dr. Patel. Ask her if there's any way we can use what we already have to disrupt the Devourer communication, even temporarily. We need to buy time. Susan nodded and rushed off to make the call. Hours later, Miller stood on the bridge, looking at a modified communication device that Susan and the ship's engineers had built based on Dr. Patel's instructions. It's not as good as the neural interface they're building on Earth, Susan explained, but it might confuse the Devourers for a short time, just enough to let us hit them where they're weakest. Miller nodded grimly. We'll only get one chance at this. Tell all remaining ships to prepare for attack pattern Omega. As the human and Alliance ships regrouped for what might be their last stand, Miller couldn't help but wonder, were they about to repeat the sacrifice their ancestors had made 50,000 years ago? Or would they find a way to defeat the Devourers once and for all? The answer would soon become clear as the main Devourer fleet approached, a massive wall of darkness moving through space toward them. 3 weeks passed with the combined fleet playing a dangerous game of hide and seek with the Devourers. They used asteroid fields and nebulas to stay hidden, while Earth and Alliance scientists worked day and night on the ancient technology. Finally, the day came when the human fleet had been fitted with weapons based on the ancient designs. Selected human pilots and soldiers had been trained to use the recovered neural interface technology. Captain Miller stood on the bridge of Unity, now equipped with powerful phase disruptors recovered from the ancient technology. The ship looked different now, with new weapons and strange devices attached to its hull. All ships report ready, Captain, said Susan. Her head now had a small metal device attached to her temple, the neural interface that would allow her to connect with and disrupt the Devourer hive mind. Miller took a deep breath and opened a channel to the entire fleet. Over 300 ships from Earth and the Alliance waited for his words. This is Captain Miller. Today we face an enemy that nearly destroyed our ancestors. They have returned, thinking they will find the same galaxy they once terrorized. But they're wrong. Our ancestors fought this enemy before. They gave everything to protect not just humanity, but all life in this galaxy. Today, we honor their sacrifice by finishing what they started. The plan was risky but simple. While the main fleet engaged the Devourer ships, a smaller group led by Susan would sneak aboard the central Devourer ship and plant a special device that would cut off communication across the entire Devourer fleet. As the fleet moved toward the Devourer position, Miller felt a mix of fear and determination. He looked around at his crew, humans working alongside aliens from a dozen different worlds. If they failed today, all of these worlds would fall to the Devourers. Enemy ships detected, called out the sensor officer. They're moving to intercept. All ships, battle formation, ordered Miller. Weapons hot. Remember your training. The battle that followed would be remembered in the histories of 100 worlds. Human ships, smaller and more maneuverable than their alliance partners, darted between the massive Devourer vessels, targeting the weak points identified in the ancient records. The new weapons worked better than anyone had hoped. Where before the Devourer shields had seemed unbreakable, now the phase disruptors cut through them like knives through paper. Meanwhile, Susan led her team on the specially modified ship Intrepid toward the central Devourer vessel. Their ship was small and had technology that made it hard to detect. Neural link established, reported specialist Nicole Garcia, her face showing the strain of fighting against the alien presence trying to invade her mind. I can see their network. It's huge. Stay focused, Susan urged. Find the central node, just like we practiced. The main battle grew more intense. Even with the new weapons, the human alliance fleet was outnumbered. Miller watched as ship after ship was lost, but they were hurting the Devourers too. Any word from Susan's team? He asked. Nothing yet, sir, replied Communications Officer Barnes. Just as Miller was about to order a tactical retreat, all the Devourer ships suddenly stopped firing. They began to move strangely, some crashing into each other. We found it, came Susan's voice over the comm system. Uploading the virus now. Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The Devourer ships lost all coordination as their hive mind collapsed. All ships, target the flagship, ordered Miller. Everything you've got. The combined firepower of the remaining fleet concentrated on the central vessel. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the massive ship erupted in a series of huge explosions, sending shockwaves through space that disabled many of the remaining Devourer ships. Susan, get out of there now. Miller shouted into the comm. For several agonizing minutes, there was no response. Then, emerging from the spreading debris field, came the Intrepid, damaged but intact. The bridge crew of Unity erupted in cheers. They had done it. They had defeated the supposedly unbeatable enemy. But as Miller watched the remaining Devourer ships retreat into the void, he knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. 1 year after the Battle of the Void, representatives from all Alliance species gathered on Earth for a special ceremony. The place they chose had special meaning. The ancient underground hangar in Antarctica, where humans had rediscovered their legacy. President Olivia Carter signed a formal treaty that made Earth a full member of the United Galactic Alliance and also created the new Joint Defense Force, with humans taking a leading role in protecting the galaxy. Captain Miller, now Admiral Miller, watched as human and alien engineers worked side by side, combining their knowledge to build a new generation of ships that would help keep the galaxy safe. It's strange to think that just a year ago, most aliens thought we were just stories, he said to Susan, who was now a captain with her own ship. And some were scared when they found out we were real, she added with a smile. The small scar on her temple where the neural interface had been connected during the battle was still visible. Dr. Russell joined them, carrying an old artifact from the ancient ship. According to my latest work translating these records, our ancestors believed they would be needed again someday. They didn't come back to Earth because they lost. They came here to rebuild, to get ready for when the Devourers returned. So all of human history, our civilizations, our wars, our technological growth, was all part of some plan made 50,000 years ago, asked Miller. Not exactly a plan, Russell replied. More like faith in humanity's potential. Faith that when the time came, we would rise to the challenge. In the center of the hangar, the ancient ship had been fully restored. Next to it stood a new ship of similar design but with modern improvements. Its name was painted on the side. Legacy. The Devourers are still out there, said Admiral Krenthos, joining the human group. His skin now showed patterns of blue and gold, colors of respect in Centaurian culture. We destroyed their main ship and many others, but some escaped. They will return someday. And we'll be ready, said Miller. Together, a group of Alliance children, young ones from many different species, toured the facility, listening with wide eyes as their guide explained how humans, once thought to be just creatures from old stories, had returned to the stars just in time to save everyone. Later that day, at the official ceremony, President Carter gave a speech to representatives from over 100 worlds. 50,000 years ago, our ancestors fought alongside yours, she said. Then we were lost, forced to rebuild from almost nothing. We forgot our place among the stars. But some part of us always looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. She gestured to the Alliance representatives. You kept stories of us alive, stories that became myths. And though you feared us, you also remembered our courage. Admiral Kren Faust stepped forward and presented President Carter with a crystal orb, the highest honor in Alliance tradition. Once, humans were myths, he said, stories to frighten children. But you have proven to be something greater, not conquerors, but protectors. The Alliance welcomes you back to your rightful place among the stars. In orbit above Earth, the newly built flagship of the Joint Defense Force prepared for its first journey. Its name was written in both human and Alliance languages on its hull, Unity. As it moved away from Earth toward the stars, smaller ships from a dozen different worlds flew in formation around it. The message was clear to anyone watching. The galaxy was now protected by all its peoples together. Humanity had returned to the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians. The myth had become reality, and the reality was even greater than the legend.